Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, and that's presented by Cinematic Visions, and it's another edition of Reconcilable Differences with Danny and Jane, a couple's view of life. And while Jane and I may have our differences that we have to reconcile from time to time, certainly travel is not one of them. It has been an integral part of our entire life together. It was an important part of us deciding that we could be with each other at the outset, and it continues to be something that we really enjoy and treasure, and it's been something that indeed has been in part taken away during the coronavirus and impacted us. And in fact, as we sat here getting ready to do this, Jane was actually on Verbo looking at some things for potentially returning to our travels. We have gone from little tiny towns to the biggest cities in the world. We've been to beaches, we've been to mountains, we've been to nowhere. And we like all of it. We've done day trips that turned into overnight trips. Now that we have 2 dogs, that one's out the window. But we have enjoyed many, many things through the years, and we'll take you on a little travel log here and some interesting twists and turns in our travel life. Maybe it'll get you inspired to take a vacation as soon as it seems viable right here during these unprecedented and challenging times. 2 words that we are getting very, very tired about. What we don't get tired about is talking about travel. We'll do that next. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300.
Hi, this is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you, Kansas City, for supporting all the local restaurants during this time of crisis. Starting Thursday, May 21st, the 23rd Street Brewery will be open from 11 to 9 for carry-out and delivery service, and 4 to 9 for dine-in and patio service, if you can believe that. We're open. During this phase, we will adhere to the Douglas County recommendations for restaurants, and please see our website or our Facebook page for details. Most importantly, we want all of our guests and staff to stay safe, and together, we will all get through this.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
My friends at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture are among the most accomplished and trusted clinics in the nation. Only one clinic has been rated in the top 5 in all 3 categories of chiropractic care, acupuncture, and rehabilitation, and that clinic is ASFCA. They have locations in Olathe, Overland Park, Prairie Village, Belton, and Lee Summit. Doctors Brad and Christina Woodle and their accomplished team of doctors and therapists will treat you like family, for the simplest of injuries to the most complicated conditions to avoid surgery. Whether you are seeking treatment for an injury or just looking to stay healthy and fit, this is the place for you. And it's been the place for me for almost 2 years now. I have been a strenuous daily exerciser for years, and as time goes on, that takes its toll. But regular appointments at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture have helped keep me ticking on, and even as the years pile up, their regular care has allowed me to keep to my regimen and feel great. If you want to feel the same, give them a call or visit them at asfca.com/Danny. They accept all insurances and are open Monday through Saturday, and make sure to mention that Danny Clinkscale recommended Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to Reconcilable Differences with Danny and Jane. We love to talk about all kinds of different things, and I think we'll just have a lot of fun with this one. And Jane and I met each other basically re-met, but met as far as the possibilities of being a couple in the year 2000. And in the middle of the year, and later that year, we had the opportunity to go to San Miguel de Allende in Mexico and stay at a Airbnb owned by a friend of Jane's. And I don't know whether you did, but I kind of looked at this because it was a bit of a challenging trip with a lot of flying and then a long drive and then a community that's built up on a mountain and lots of hiking and getting around and challenges. And I figured this would be a good test to see if we are together for a week or so, and under these circumstances, whether we could perhaps spend a lifetime together. That's the way I kind of felt about it. It was almost like a test run for me. What did you think back then?
You know, I suppose it was hilarious because my friend's Airbnb is up on this mountain. This is San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, and all the streets are cobblestone, and so I'm not the greatest hiker on cobblestone. So it was just funny in the first place because it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't an easy place to get to. But it was such a fun place because it's an artist colony and it's a really neat town. Everything is hidden behind doors. All the restaurants, part of that is because of the heat, in the middle of Mexico, they find ways of using courtyards. And we ended up having a blast, I thought. I mean, it was, you were watching soccer on Mexican television. We were actually seemingly having fun, which I was shocked at. And we were just exploring together. And that was the fun part, is learning to know, and do you want to explore with me?
That's exactly right. And I remember exactly when it was, or relatively exactly, because I actually watched an American football game on Mexican television. The Chiefs game was on Mexican television, and I recorded a Mexican touchdown call for the post-game show, which I called in with Jack Harry from Mexico. The other story of that particular endeavor was the fact that, yes, indeed, the one time we didn't go to a fancy restaurant, we went to a strip mall. I had huevos rancheros, and I got sick as a dog later in the day after playing a round of golf. And then, Jane, what happened? How did we get back to our Airbnb? In the pickup truck.
Oh, my God. Oh, yes. Well, we both ended up getting sick. You started feeling ill earlier when you started on the round of golf, and then I quit. Remember, I walked off because I started not feeling well. And it was clear that we were not going to, I don't even know how we were planning to get home, but I think you stopped short, didn't you?
No, I finished. I didn't feel sick until right the second after I played. I had a beer, and it did not go down well.
It was hilarious. And so we befriended this woman from, I think she was from San Antonio, but she'd moved down to San Miguel, and she had this flatbed truck, and she goes, Danny, just hop on. She'd already started with the margaritas in the car hours earlier. Yes. So I get in the car with her. Okay, so imagine a drunk Texan. Danny's laying in the back of the flatbed truck, and all we're doing is trying to navigate cobblestone streets.
So I'm going, it's going butter, and I'm sick.
He's really sick.
We got to drive up a mountain over cobblestone roads in the flatbed of a truck. And Jania had gotten sick earlier, so she was starting to feel better. She went to town and it had actually a reasonably nice time doing something. And I just rode out my sickness there. So we survived that trip, and we were on our way. Yeah,
it was quite hilarious. But we had a really, what's really neat about that town is we had the best Asian food we've ever had. It's a multicultural environment, and I've traveled quite a bit, and so that was really fun to see your openness to all of the doors I wanted to, And
another thing that happened before we move on to the next, these will be highlights, folks. We've been so many places. We do an 18-part travel log on this, but we also were just walking the streets in the evening one evening and got swept into a wedding reception. It's known very much as a place where rich Texans go to get married, and it was a sort of a Mardi Gras type parade with people on stilts and everything like that, and they said, come on in. And we went to somebody's wedding reception for a little while.
I forget how they do this because they also have this in the Day of the Dead. One of the traditions in Mexico is to have these giant Mardi Gras puppets where people are on stilts walking with these giant faces. And I think it represents the wedding party, but I don't quote me on that. But we were literally swept in and they wanted us to join them. They were clearly having a great time. And there are small, narrow streets there. And that is what's so great about Mexico. I wish we could be more like that. In the United States is having that sense of openness.
Well, we did indeed prove to each other that we could stand each other in these settings, and we certainly fell in love, and that meant we would eventually get married, which we did in 2002, and our honeymoon was in Jamaica at a Sandals resort, which we didn't leave very often, which is a wise idea when you were in Jamaica, by the way. One time when we did go to the bazaar and I was doing something else, buying a soccer shirt or something, Jane was nearly accosted by a taxi cab driver, but she resisted his advances, to say the least. The other funny story about this is I played golf a couple of times on the golf course that's associated with Sandals. By the way, Celine Dion was there the week before, an avid golfer, and had been playing, and we heard the stories of that. But I played once by myself, and then the second time I played, Jane came along. She enjoys the game and enjoys riding in the cart, whatever. Well, I had a caddy who was supposed to be helpful to me, but really in the end, all he ended up doing, Jane, was showing you the spices.
Oh, he was a fabulous chef. We ended up talking about jerk chicken recipes. He was better, let's just put it this way. He was a better chef than he was a golf caddy. But we had a blast, and it was a beautiful day.
He was walking around literally picking spices out of the trees and showing them to Jane hey, this is a great spice for this particular dish. And I basically lost my caddy to my wife, and I ended up playing golf really almost by myself.
Well, and you have failed to mention this one amazing thing when you decided to run outside of the Sandals Resort, and you got accosted.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody tried to sell me ecstasy while I was running. It was, for me to run a certain distance, I did have to leave the property, and I'm literally running at, rather full speed, and somebody is trying to sell me drugs while I'm running. I'm like, maybe some other time, buddy, but not right now, to say the least. Well, let's fast forward to 2007. I had a milestone birthday in 2006. And the celebration of it was something Jane did, which was incredible, which was a party where we had hula dancers and everything else, and she basically unveiled the fact that we were going to go to Maui for my birthday
This
party.
was a Hawaii 5-0.
Yes, themed
event.
Surprise party. It was outstanding, and I think it was early 2007 by the time we made the trip. Maybe it was either December or January. I don't remember exactly, but that trip was relatively blissfully uneventful. About the only thing I remember about it was that I was supposed to play golf twice, but I ended up getting to play golf 3 times because Jane got sick. And that's sort of a recurring theme on these particular
Yes, if there's a high and low cell pressure going at once, I get these terrible headaches. And so I spent the first 2 days, I think, sitting in the condo, trying to get over it. But it was still a gorgeous trip. Oh, playing the golf, that was really...
Yeah, we went to Four Seasons for one of the rounds, and it's absolutely a beautiful place. We haven't been back since. Jane went as a young child, so she had some great memories of that, and thinking to herself, I used to think that was a big giant mountain.
I know. My dad saved Gertie my beach ball when I was in 2nd grade when we were there first time, and oddly enough, this was really interesting because I was walking. It's so packed now. I suddenly had a vision. The Sheraton Hotel, where that little mountain was, it turns out just sort of be some rocks, was the first hotel that was on Maui. And that when we were there, that was one of the only hotels that was there. So it was hard for me to realize where I was until suddenly I had this vision. And my dad had passed away a few years earlier, so I got a little teary-eyed on that one.
Yeah, we rented a convertible, and it was just a glorious trip. I'd love to go back to Maui. I can highly recommend it to anybody. Beautiful weather, beautiful beaches. It's touristy now, but it's touristy in a very good way. So really a memorable trip for a memorable occasion for me. Another memorable occasion came in 2010 when I had the opportunity to be a broadcaster for a day at the Ryder Cup for various entities, which helped finance a rather fairly lavish trip to Europe. We went to landed in London. We went to Bath, England, because that was fairly close to Wales, where the golf tournament was played. Supposedly, we basically got rained out of our day of golf. Then on to Paris. Then on to Venice. What a fantastic trip. That's sort of a trip of a lifetime type of thing. I don't know if we'll be able to do anything like that again, but there are so many memorable things about it. But that was an absolutely fantastic trip.
Well, what we love to do is we never stay in regular hotels. We really are an Airbnb couple. And what makes it so wonderful is you get to know the people that really live there, and they give you more personalized service a lot of times. And we were in the 18th arrondissement in Paris, and it was way the hell away from the tourist traps, but I certainly loved it. You were still running then around the Sacré-Cœur and all over, and we had fabulous food. We sat in French bars watching soccer. It's really fun to talk to, other soccer aficionados in different parts of the country, which was really fun. And Venice, which is my namesake, my middle name is Venice, and I had never been there, even though I'd spent quite a bit of time in Italy and other parts. So that was really a joy for me. My favorite part was the water taxi, where we got into when we were leaving Venice from our hotel. You leave by water taxi through a window, or finestra, as we call it.
There were a lot of great memories of that. As I mentioned, the day of Ryder Cup golf almost got completely rained out, and Jane left earlier in the day. I thought I still might have to do some work, but I didn't. And so I said, let's meet at this particular bar back in Bath. And when I got there and we met, I had missed all the golf. They hadn't played, and they were playing golf near sunset, and it was bright sunshine when we had been rained on all day long. So that was kind of
when I came in, the only person I saw, it was pelting rain. Colin Montgomery was flying in because he was the captain of the team. Yeah. All I ended up doing was we were in hordes of thousands of people in that giant merchandise room. We bought merchandise and left.
That was about it. And one of the memories of that neighborhood in Paris is that the last day, that morning, we were going to fly to Venice that day, and I got lost running, and I didn't know how to get back to where our place was. And the only way I knew was that I knew if I ran to the top of that church, what's it called?
Sacré-Cœur.
I knew if I ran the steps to the top, that if I looked down at the Eiffel Tower, that our apartment was basically right on line with that. So I had to run about 150 steps up there just so I could find my bearings and get back. And I took a long time. And it was, I think Jane was a little upset that we were perhaps going to be running late to fly to Venice on Ryanair, I believe.
Oh, God.
That was bad.
That's bad. Ryanair's bad. Let's just say that. Yes. Go British Airways, go Air France, go any other way but Ryanair.
Well, then we did go to Venice, and as you said, you water taxi in there, and I'd heard a lot of things about Venice, some not so great, and it's the favorite place I've been probably in all of our trips. I absolutely loved it. The food is great. It has a fantastic neighborhood feel. Yes, it can be touristy as well, particularly right in the area, right near whatever the major canal is. But we always tend to stay, as we said, in a little neighborhood or a place like that. And there was a little grocery store that we went to often right across the way. But one thing about Venice is that they have all these courtyards, and there's a distinct similarity to each one of them. So the first few days when I was running, I said, I'm just going to run in a small circle here because I'll get lost. Well, I got confident one of the last days and ventured out, and yes, indeed, again, I got lost. And the only way I knew how to get back to our place was to run to the main square, and I knew the way back from the main square from there. So that extended my run again.
Our gondola rider also couldn't remember where to go. I think he was slightly tipsy, and I remember I hurt my foot.
That's right.
He let us out like miles from
he let us out at the market.
I was crying by the time I got back to because we had quite a walking thing, and I ruined my feet for 8 miles we walked in Paris. That was the problem. Make sure you have great shoes. Don't wear new shoes. That's what I did. I wore new shoes in Paris. But we had what was great is that we don't always just go to the main tourist areas of any place that we stay in. And if I can relate that to anyone else, don't just stay in the main tourist areas. What I'm hoping this pandemic it gets rid of some, not all, some of the cruise ships that are going in at places like Venice, because that's the craziness, is when they come hoarding in there and want to buy glass pieces. That's just, to me, that's not what a trip is about.
Right, and that happens in Jamaica as well. And, all of a sudden it's 10 a.m. or whenever they come in, and there's like 5,000 people get off a cruise ship, and it does create a lot of craziness as well. Well, we'll talk about some smaller places and some other various entrees as we move into the 2010s. That will come your way next on our travels on Reconcilable Differences with Danny and Jane. This one, very reconcilable, very few differences, as we continue next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
Hi, this is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you, Kansas City, for supporting all the local restaurants during this time of crisis. Starting Monday, June 1st, the 23rd Street Brewery will be open our regular hours from 11 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. every day of the week. For dine-in and patio service, if you can believe that, we're open. During this phase, we will adhere to the Douglas County recommendations for restaurants, and please see our website or our Facebook page for details. Most importantly, we want all of our guests and staff to stay safe, and together we will all get through this.
We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner, and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dana. If they just contact me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway. We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and we're traveling, and as I said, we do not just go to the big places, the touristy places, and even when we go there, we try to stay a little bit off the beaten path, and we also go to places like Eureka Springs, which has been a regular stop for us through the years. Originally, the same person who actually owned the spot in San Miguel also owned a little home in in Eureka Springs. And for a while there, I don't know, 3 or 4 year span, that was a pretty regular stop for us. We'd go down there and spend a weekend. It's right on a little golf course and probably 5 miles away from the downtown area. We just love that area and have continued to return there even after we could no longer, they sold the home. So we didn't have the access to the home, but we continue to have enjoyed making it a somewhat regular stop.
Well, what's fun about it, if you haven't been there, it's a quick, as Deb, who owned the house, says, throw in a Stouffer's frozen lasagna in 4 hours. Once you're there, it's thawed and ready for dinner. That's how you think about calculating the hours. And it's a lovely countryside, that Arkansas area where all those beautiful rolling hills, and it has a top roadway that Road Magazine.
Yeah, and they film a lot of automobile
commercials, a lot of and it's just stunning, and very, very steep. And then it's Eureka Springs. It was the hot springs where you were supposed to go and cure all your ailments, and there's still some of that there, but there's still artisans there. Some have stayed there for years. Great leather goods. It's a great walking city and fabulous bed and breakfasts throughout. And we've stayed in both, and the restaurants are fantastic. Even though there's not like 30 of them, they're just small, but they're just so it's really nice. A quick weekend trip.
It's one of the most unusual places I think that you go to because it's out in rural Arkansas. There is an aspect to it that's quite, if you go around the bend from one downtown area, it's almost like Branson a little bit. And then if you go to the other area, it's more bohemian with art shops and things like that. Very unique place. Yes, Eureka Springs kind of has it all, from bikers to a rather thriving gay community to artisan shops and everything else. It's really kind of a very unique place. The golf course is a cute little place. There's a downtown Crescent Hotel, and to continue this theme, it's supposed to be haunted. It also is moldy, and one Thanksgiving we had to cut the trip short because you were infested with mold. Yes,
anytime there's mold, again, I get some weird thing happen, but boy, I enjoyed my burger later on in the evening. It didn't last too long.
It was Thanksgiving night, and her idea of making herself well was to order a burger.
Burger and fries.
The cure-all to just about everything. Another of our recurring places to go is Puerto Vallarta, and we certainly have enjoyed that, I think, 4 times now, maybe 4 or 5, something like that. But the very first time we went, we got what we thought was an incredible deal on basically a studio apartment almost in a hotel in the romantic district down there. And soon we discovered why we had gotten this fantastic deal, which is like $59 a night or something. And we basically had this thing that was the size of an apartment. Well, we discovered that we were there the week before the tourist season really started because it was still stultifyingly hot. And for the first 3 days, and this story is told in my book, Leaving Cancer for the Circus, it was so hot that it was almost unbearable heat. And we would walk downtown. I think maybe it was just the first couple days, 2 days, maybe 2 to 3 days. And Jane now has probably a couple $300 worth of jewelry she might never have bought because we would just duck into shops because it was so hot just to get the air conditioning.
Oh my God, it was pretty crazy. I don't remember why we scheduled it on that time, but certainly we've never done it. Was it October?
Yeah,
it was just before the cooler era was coming in, so we've learned our lesson there. But we still, It's been again, we're kind of odd. We do not stay in the typical all-inclusive resorts. We stay downtown in the romantic district where there's German, Austrian, Asian people and restaurants that are living there. We have friends that live in the hills above us. We stay on the public beaches. We don't mind that, they're trying to ply us with jewelry because we love getting involved with the native people, also Americans who've moved there. I got to meet someone when I was shopping for some pottery, a man who's a theater director who has started a theater there. We go to Memo's downtown, where the best breakfast in the world and some of the best pastries in the world, my sister and I believe, and she's the really culinary artist, are in Mexico. And we were right down the street from one of the best bakeries I've ever been to.
One of the most vivid memories is from that trip, and it was how we found out when the tourist season begins. Is the second or third night, there were these unbelievable thunderstorms that were like, even if you've been to Kansas, this is like 5 times. It was, I described it in the book as like the Battle of Britain was going on. And I stood out under a ledge, under an overhang, and watched these, having a beer, watching this thunderstorm just pulverize the mountainside. And I could not believe these houses, which are built right into the mountain, were going to survive this. And then the next morning, all the water was gone into the ocean. It had cooled off by at least 15 degrees. The humidity had taken a powder, and so that's actually when the tourist season begins. And so we discovered that that particular date is where you have to schedule afterwards. That's why we got the great deal, and it's just a wonderful place to go. I've discovered a little bicycle shop where I get a bike and ride a bike around there. We are familiar enough with certain places that now it almost seems like home to us. I really can't wait to go back.
I know. It's one of the most beautiful ports in the world. It's photographed probably more than almost any port. And they really, the culinary arts there are huge. And the artist colony is magnificent. We've brought back some phenomenal original art from Puerto Vallarta. And the people are fantastic. I know there's a lot of concern with violence, and there is definitely in Jalisco, surrounding the area, and sometimes in Puerto Vallarta, but most of our Mexican friends, they do not want this to happen, and they go out of their way to give us the most phenomenal experience.
Well, what you've noticed the culinary theme of things here, and maybe it says something about Jane and me, and this is more of a negative on me. Jane could tell you where the best place to get a cruller is from a trip in 2003. If you ask me anywhere we've been, I can tell you where I bought the beer. That's for sure. So we each have memories that we can particularly share about that. But what just wonderful trips to Puerto Vallarta over and over and over again. And the last time we went, we had another memorable experience. I was trying to body surf in the beach that's right where we always go, and the waves were good, but they crashed too far into the sand, and so I was lamenting that to another guy, and he says, and he was an avid body surfer as well, and he said, "Oh, you have to go down to Bucharrios. It's about 20 miles down the coast, and just take the bus." So the next morning we get up and we get on this blue bus. And we're the only Anglos, and it was a weekday, and these people were just, all the Mexicans they're going to work or school or whatever, packed bus. They let us off under a bridge, and we wandered off to Bucharrios. The waves were up to par, and so it was very much worth it. But it probably took us well over an hour to get there on the bus, and we took a cab back, and it was like a 15-minute ride.
But that was really interesting, though. And people were great with us. They knew we didn't know. They told us where to get off. And I think part of what I love about Mexico is the mentality of that there is actually value in relaxing. You know, as Americans, that's not what we're very good at. And that's one thing when I come back, I feel like, maybe we needed to learn a little bit from these people.
Yes, and I've said this before, and sometimes I think you take this almost as a negative. Jane is her absolute best self on vacation. She's a wonderful partner in all areas of life, but certainly when we're on vacation, it's a delight. The only thing I can say about it is one thing is that when we're on vacation, money is no object, be it art or whatever.
I know, and we don't have to clean the house.
She'll worry about the circumstances when we come back.
Right.
But we certainly enjoy our time to the fullest when we travel. Well, I referenced Leaving Cancer for the Circus, the book I wrote in 2015. The basis of the book is a trip that I took by myself without telling Jane, and you'll have to read the book to figure out that that's not a negative thing. But anyway, 2 years later, and that was in 2015, and 2 years later, in 2017, we took kind of the same trip. We started it off the exact same way, stayed in the first place that I stayed, and after that, as I was in charge in 2015 by myself of plotting each day, there was no real plan. This time around, Jane was in charge each day of deciding where we would trek to. So after the first 2 days where it was similar to my trip, which was Broken Bow, Nebraska, and then Mount Rushmore, Jane was in charge after that. We went with the buffalo and then on into Wyoming. I had spent most of my time curving back east into South Dakota. This time we went west and spent most of our time in Wyoming, and it was just an absolutely thrilling trip.
You know, it's weird because I'm so used to having spent so much time in Europe. You know, you just assume you want to get on that plane and go across the pond. But I'll tell you, there was something, I don't know if it's an age thing, but there was something about really spending time in the wilderness, going to Bighorn, going to the, to be at one with the buffalo. What's the name of that? I forgot the name of that.
I think it's called Buffalo State Park.
I think that's it. And it's just... it was, we were staying in a little cabin. Like we have buffalo walking right past us, as we were biking. And it was almost a feeling of being back in the Roosevelt time. There was something about that. Suddenly time had stopped, and I didn't know that still existed. But if you go through Wyoming, there's so few people there. Don't go, because who wants it to get busier?
So we spent 2 nights with the buffalo, and also we took one of those Jeep excursions over all the whole property and saw the prairie dogs and who live sort of cheek by jowl with the buffalo, even though they're the tiniest of animals. And that was really cool. And then each day we basically decided to go to a little tiny town, and we arrived in Saratoga, Wyoming, I believe it was. Yes. So we looked at each other, and after checking into this hotel and realized it was June 7th, 2017, which happened to be our 15th anniversary. We had been enjoying this trip so much, we didn't even realize what had happened. And we lost track of the days. And here it is. We're in this town of like 2,000 people maybe, and we have to go try to explore and find a gift for each other. Well, Jane found this really vintage, great T-shirt that she actually, the joke of it is she says, "Hey, look, you've got shoulders," when I tried it on. But I found at Jane's suggestion, a piece of jewelry at this jewelry store that was pretty lavish, a lovely jewelry store. And we would make this discovery because I asked the lady, I said, how can you keep a wonderful store like this going in such a tiny town? And she goes, "Oh, we have to hire extra help in the summer. We're slammed." It turns out that this community is right next to this gigantic dude ranch that corporate people come to spend a week like city slickers or whatever and spend thousands of dollars there. And then Jane also asked where we might be able to spend anniversary dinner, and there's a gourmet French restaurant there. And we spent our anniversary there, Italian restaurant. Yeah, that was really, so it was an amazing coincidence in this tiny little town.
Oh my God. And then what was really funny is when we were driving out to leave to go towards, did we pass Cheyenne or just before Cheyenne? We decided to stop after this mountain range at this little restaurant and we went upstairs outside because it was a beautiful day, and there was one other guy with these dark sunglasses on. We ended up talking to him. It turns out he was like...
you ended up talking to him.
Excuse me. That's right. We ended up talking when you went to the bathroom. That he turns out he was the activities director for this dude ranch.
In the summer, he was the activities director. In the winter, he was a ski instructor. So he had it all going on.
Oh my God!
He was this cool cat, about 35 years old. So for him, it was a really good deal. The other part of that happened is that the evening before, I had gone to go get gas and a few sundries before we went out to dinner, and I got $25 worth of gas at the inside, but I forgot to pump it. So
does anyone know it's Danny? Is anyone listening? Does this sound like familiar? Okay.
So I forgot to pump the gas even though I'd paid for it. And I just went back, and so I think, okay, we're good for gas. And we drive out of town the next day, and all of a sudden I look down, and the little gas tank thing is lit up on our rental car, or my car, and I'm like, what the heck? Oh, I must not have pumped the gas. And now Wyoming is this sort of place where there's these beautiful little areas and towns, and then you just might go for hours with nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. Flat land, you can see the mountains in the distance, and I'm like, we're at least 75.
We're screwed. We're screwed. That's what we thought.
We're at least 75 miles maybe from the next town. And all of a sudden, out of happenstance, there's just this little roadside nothing there, and not even a gas station per se. It was a place you could pick up a soda or whatever. And there was one gas pump outside, and it did take credit. The gas was almost $5 a gallon, but 3 times the price of whatever it was, but they knew what they were doing, and I got enough gas to get us on to the next place. Fortuitous, or we would have been in big trouble out in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming with having run out of gas because I was stupid.
It was hilarious.
Absolutely. But that was another wonderful trip. We came back through northern Kansas and small towns there. There was a little town that actually had Frank Lloyd Wright houses in it, as a matter of fact. So we could go on and on now, couldn't we? But I was going to talk about the Bahamas, but that was an okay trip in 2018 that we did. But let's wrap it up with our final excursion, which was last year. And I guess the hook to this, and part of what made me think about it, was that the other day we had Jane's sister and my brother-in-law over for social distance grilling. And I, in the couple days before, put together a little photo book for each of Jane and her sister of our trip to Spain and France the previous year, which we took with them. And another trip of a lifetime. And the last thing we've really done before coronavirus hit, Barcelona, and then on to southern France where we'd been.
What was so great about that is we had been to our friend's fabulous townhome in Boutignac, France, the year before, and it really caught us on to the southwest part of France. So we decided last year, let's just fly into Barcelona, which is only a couple hours away. So we started there and then trekked our way through northern Spain back into southwest France, which is, oh my God. I mean, Barcelona.
We got both. We got the best of both because Barcelona is a huge city, obviously, with all of the great things that you can get in a big city, walking and shopping and great restaurants. And then southwest France is all these tiny little villages, maybe 600 to 1,200 people, but each one of them with absolute culinary delights but really incredibly the best of both worlds that we got, the small villages in France, the wonderful big city of Barcelona.
Oh my God. My sister and I are great. We're just big aficionados of architectural wonders. And of course, anyone who's been there, I'm sure you know Gaudi and the Sagrada Familia. I can't pronounce that correctly. The phenomenal cathedral, but we also went to some of the homes that he built, including some apartments that nobody really knows about, hardly. It's not like on the tourist map. And so that was a highlight, aside from the amazing tapas. We ate our way through that, as well as staying right around the corner. We were in an Airbnb, and I just happened to mention on Facebook we were in Barcelona, and a dear friend of mine from Chicago that I live with there, she emailed me, you must go to Barmut. Go to Barmut. Well, we were like, what? It's like was right around the corner from us. It was like an 8-table gilded bar, high-end gilded bar. And they served us outside, no menus.
Right. The manager or the chef comes out and he explains what he's got. And for the evening, he said, well, this is your fish, this is your poultry. And then he says, you must have the goat.
Goat leg. Scary. One of the best experiences of my life. So if you're willing to be a little bit adventurous, sometimes you have one of the best moments of your life.
Absolutely. In France, we stayed in this beautiful home where the person who did it made these elaborate metal sculptures and that he put in sort of a cave. They're spooky kind of things. And the whole thing was absolutely fantastic. And one of the other highlights was watching this crazy man on French television describe a soccer match that we could not see. That was the way they did it. It was a Champions League match. So there are all kinds of great things. And through the years, we've met so many interesting people, done so many great things. And we only scratched the surface with this, which shows how much fun we've had
in
little towns and big cities.
Coulières, France was a highlight. We've been to twice. Quick drive from where we were staying.
Beautiful beach community where all kinds of famous artists would go to paint the ocean.
Find down the unbeaten path. Yeah. That's what I would suggest, and you'll find amazing discoveries.
That's what we recommend is get off the beaten path, be it in Saratoga, Wyoming, Coulières, France, or anywhere else all around the world.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
the law offices of Kenneth McRae, developing a unique strategy for your family law case. Divorce can be civil law, not civil war.